Hey, gang, pack up your condensed milk cans because we've got a long journey ahead of us as we try to definitively determine who was it that really discovered America on Seemingly Unrelated. Hey, welcome back to Seemingly Unrelated. This is the podcast where we connect the seemingly mundane elements of everyday life to the most unbelievable but true stories and events across history, society, and culture. We've got another special guest. How do we keep booking them? I don't know. He is a safety professional, the background in entertainment armory / firearms. It is the man himself, Dan Walker. Hello, Dan. How are you doing today?
Hello, Andrew. Hello. I'm doing okay. I'm doing well.
Now, what could you please just provide a little more context? Because the listener may be confused as to what I mean by entertainment armory firearms / firearms.
So, a lot of the large theatres, especially in London, there'll be a handful of them that would have specialist armourers who might fabricate, they might make weaponry out of wood and metal and leather, or they might specialise in the usage and the safeguarding of firearms, licensed or otherwise. So that was a big part of my background. Now led to me learning a lot from that time and working as a safety professional in the world of aviation events.
I love it. I love it.
Wild.
And that's why you weren't on last week's episode, because you know too much about steel.
It's true. I actually overheard of, yeah.
Too much information. So let's talk about none of those things and instead drop you into the deep end. The deep end,
Andrew,
perhaps, of
you
the
haven't
Atlantic
introduced
Ocean.
me yet.
Oh my God.
Oh. I can't believe it. I'm so
all of
offended.
the people.
I'm literally
Andrew.
sat there eagerly waiting for my introduction, which always comes first.
Always comes first. Not today.
Not today. Not today. Completely forgot I was here.
It's not. It's that.
What are you doing? By
the way, I'm also joined, as always, by producer Naomi. Hi, Naomi.
Hello. Not at all bitter or angry in this episode. And in front of our guest.
It's not bitter if it's justified. Get him. Get him.
Yeah.
Get
Don't
him.
worry. I'll find a way during the episode. Go for Andrew.
Yeah, so I'll try to recover. I've got to remember so many things. I have a big question for you, Dan. When did Europeans, specifically, figure out that there were a couple of continents on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean that we now call the Americas?
Do they need to have, at the time, known that the continent they were going for was the Americas?
No. When was the first time a European put a foot down on the Americas?
Boy, man, I'm not good at dates. I'm going to say somewhere in the 16th century, 1500s.
16th century, 1500? You're damn close. You're damn close.
Early 17th century then? Early 70s?
No. Don't worry about it. You're good. You're in the neighborhood, right? This is the traditional
I'll take it.
narrative, right? By the way, have you ever been taught about Europeans going to the New World? Don't know.
Boy, oh boy. In a formal education system, not a chance. not a drop. No way. I'm noticing a theme from listening to the podcast before. On a commentary on the British education system.
Hey. Yeah.
Ew.
UK. Hey.
No, I'm not. I can't fist bump that.
It's coming home.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's that.
Education is coming home. So it's that early 16th century, roughly around 1500, is the dominant narrative. That is when Spain and Portugal establish their imperial holdings. We get like the Papal Bull of 1498, which divides the New World into the Spanish New World and the Portuguese New World. And then 100-ish years later, the British show up, and they ruin everything.
Turns out we do that sometimes.
But you and I know, Dan, that is clearly not when the Americas was first settled, right?
Certainly not. Certainly not. That is certainly not when that happened.
Nope. Yeah. And it has created quite a contentious narrative. It is difficult to say when exactly Europeans landed on the continents, because we'd have to start asking ourselves questions about what Europeans are and what they mean. So that's what we're going to dive into today, Dan. We're going to...
You picked a nice light one.
Nice light one. Yeah?
You know?
Yeah, you think Europeans showing up in the New World is a light topic?
Yeah, real light topic, you know, the definitions of European, what does it mean to be European, and the effects on the world, you know, just a good little easy topic.
But, you know, we're gonna explore the three primary narratives that have been posited for this story of what is the first European to land in the New World, to touch the ground in the New World. And we will find out along the way some pretty strange, seemingly unrelated elements. So I hope you can get excited for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Let's go.
Up first, let's get into the details of the story you've already presented. Tell me, Dan, what do you know about Christopher Columbus? Not the director of Home Alone, the other Christopher Columbus.
Damn. Well, that's all the things I know out the window. That's not true. The things I know about Christopher Columbus, I don't know if they're true. But boy,
doesn't matter.
Well, the one thing I do feel like is true is that I've heard he wasn't a great guy.
True.
He didn't do some great things. I mean, there's I've heard the story of him trying to find somewhere else.
Yeah. So
essentially trying to find India, Southeast Asia, South Asia, and rocking up on the Americas. Not much else.
That's it.
To be honest, I'm ready to learn.
You're ready to learn. Well, the easy way to remember the common story is that in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. It is a rhyme.
Very nice.
It's cute.
Very nice.
1492. He indeed, Christopher Columbus, a man from Genoa, went to the newly formed Kingdom of Spain, formed the same year, 1492, to meet with the Queen and to convince her that he could establish a gold and or spice-based trade route with Japan, specifically, if he simply sailed west. If he just went west long enough, he would eventually hit Japan, which is not untrue.
Man, ahead of his time. If only the Panama Canal existed, you know.
Would have been very helpful. Would have been very helpful.
You know, not many people could say that Christopher Columbus was simply ahead of his time.
Yeah, so he's trying to establish this trade route to the west, or to what we would call the east, technically, but to Japan, because the Spanish really did not wish to go the other way, because if you go the other way, you have to pay taxes to Muslims. And if there's one thing that the Kingdom of Spain hated, it was Muslims.
Muslims, yeah. I mean, look, you got specific on the Kingdom of Spain. You don't have to. Europe as a whole, not great on that front. Historically,
Not true, sir. Venice. The Venetian Empire, very much happy to trade with the Ottoman Empire. Very much happy to trade with the Ottoman Empire.
And I'm pleased. Someone has to buck the trend of hatefulness. Anyway, what were you saying?
So he set out west. It took him something like 2 months, and eventually he landed in what we would now call Cuba. He didn't even touch mainland America, which is the first little point of contention here, because he founded the Caribbean. I mean, he found out the Caribbean existed, I should say. Right. But does that Is that setting foot in the Americas? Technically, yes, but it's a tough call.
So did he ever set foot on mainland North America?
So he lands in Cuba, he meets the local people, he's like, oh baby, I've got it. We're not gonna trade with spices or gold. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to Spain, say I found a bunch of Indians, and then we're gonna trade them. That's what we're going to start engaging in as our profitable enterprise almost immediately.
It's so funny. Sometimes, you know a story, and yet the twist, it still gets to you. You know, this isn't the first time I've heard of the abhorrent natures of human slavery, and yet, for some reason, I wasn't expecting it in that moment. It still caught me off guard. Look at that.
Wow. Slavery, it always catches you off guard.
Stick to the spices and the gold. No.
No. So he does come back. There's a second expedition the next year in 1493. And yeah, that's when he just starts snatching up people. And it goes bad very quickly. Because within 70 years, within 3 generations, 92 million people died, roughly meaning about 90% of the population of the Americas would die in what is known historically as the Great Dying. Inventive.
Yeah, I mean, look, sometimes you've got to cut to the point, right? You've got to cut straight to it.
You got to cut to the chase. Now,
you got to cut to the chase.
You also might not know, because you did not grow up in the United States, that until, well, to this day, depending on what state you live in, we have a holiday called Columbus Day.
This I do know, and I know that it should not be called that.
That is the debate since 1991. That has been the major debate, is whether or not to call it, say, Indigenous Peoples Day, which is in my home state of Maryland. We celebrate Indigenous Cultures Day. I think we've extended it to include global indigenous cultures, which I don't think anyone's particularly mad about.
Yeah,
but
let's rally against colonialism and imperialism in all its forms.
Absolutely. I mean, we're all Marxist internationalists here. Like, we're very keen to go all around the world with the story. And one would imagine that this is because Columbus discovered America, therefore he gets a holiday, right? And yet, the reason that any U.S. holiday exists, as a bank holiday especially, is complicated and usually not a nice story. So, the fun fact about Columbus is, because he never actually stepped foot in the United States, the U.S. didn't regard him as anything particularly special, ever, really, until the 1890s. So for the first 120-ish years of the United States, there's the guy who writes Sleepy Hollow, he also writes a story about Columbus.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Which is the story that we basically tell of everyone thought the world was flat. He thought the world was round. He's a genius. He goes out to the West and he discovers the new world and all that kind of nonsense. Yeah. I mean, this is the same guy.
My goodness. Shooketh. I'm so surprised that it was not a true story.
It was not a true story.
Goodness.
From the same guy who said, there'd be a headless horseman who would throw a pumpkin at you. It's not until the 1890s. Now, as we have established on this podcast, but you may not be familiar, specifically, Dan, I don't expect my guests to listen to every single episode of the show. The United States experienced, from the 1870s until about the 1920s, a massive wave of immigration.
Right.
Yep. It is it's the fastest growing period in the U.S. population, except for the baby boom. And it is completely because of immigration, right? So we have huge numbers of people, particularly coming from Italy, right? So
okay. Yep.
1871, Italy became a country, officially. Technically in 1861, it became Italy, but then Italy as we know Italy was established in 1871.
Yeah.
when Italy invaded Rome, which is an interesting story, and they put the Pope in prison for 50 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Man, I could so have responded to that with something that could get the podcast in hot water. But hey, here we go.
Do it.
Let's keep going.
Put us in
I don't
hot
know.
water right now. I got some hot water right here.
I feel like some more
can
popes
cut
could
it.
have gone in prison. You know, I feel... Anyway.
I went to Rome when the Pope died.
What?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Like, I was in Rome when the Pope died as a child, and it was the most
Which one?
crazy
Oh, John Paul
experience.
II.
John
I
Paul
thought
II.
you meant a few
okay.
weeks ago.
Yeah, I was like, wow.
I was like, why am I only hearing about this now?
I forget to give context sometimes.
And now for something completely unrelated.
Do you know what I remember as a child is just how many portaloos were in Rome?
Wow, they must have had those booked up ready.
It was just streets and streets lined with portaloos, and I thought, that's a bit mental.
Well, I'm sure the Swiss Guard was there to make sure that those toilets were the safest toilets anyone had ever looed in.
Yeah, absolutely. And something tells me that the Vatican wasn't worrying for resource to plan an event like that. I'm sure they had it figured out with the resources
Yeah.
available. Yeah.
I'm sure just the like. I mean, I'm really struggling. I'm like, God damn it, Andrew! All of my papal references are pre-13th century. Why do I exist like this? Loads of Italians coming to the United States. Not as much as the Irish. There was something like 1.6 million Irish people, but several hundred thousand, like 600,000 or 700,000 Italian immigrants settling in the United States. And this is where Italian Americans come from. So if you're a fan of pizza, you're fucking welcome. All right?
Appreciate it.
Deal with it. With
Thanks,
the
guys.
gabagool. Now, if you had to guess, based on what you know of stereotypes of groups in the United States, where do you think was the number one place, the biggest per capita representation of these Italian Americans in the United States?
I mean, not to start pizza wars, but if I think about places with famous claims to a slice or a pie, New York, surely, gotta be up there, right?
It makes sense, right?
Yeah.
It makes sense. But oddly enough, it's a different new. It was New Orleans.
New Orleans.
That's
Really?
right. New Orleans, Louisiana saw the largest per capita Italian immigration in the United States. Why New Orleans? Mostly it's just because there were similar farming practices. Like their climates aren't that different. So, for southern Italy and Mississippi/Louisiana. So it makes a certain amount of sense. Yeah. And that means, so we're in the deep South, the deep South. We're in the 1880s. So slavery's over. Quotation mark, depending on your reading of the 13th Amendment, among other things. What do you think came along with all that Italian immigration?
Look, in that area at that time with large amounts of migration, if I look around me at the world now and I look at the way the people respond to the arriving of like good people offering good food and good vibes, I'm going to guess whole new ways to hate.
Yes.
It's going to be my guess.
Massive anti-Italian sentiment.
Yeah.
In March of 1891, the police chief of New Orleans died, and it was alleged that he may have been murdered. And in the wake of that allegation, which was never substantiated, no one ever actually determined that he was murdered. His death remains unknown.
I see where this is going.
Largest ever single lynching of people occurred in New Orleans, with 11 Italian men being lynched at the same time in March of 1891.
I take it back. I didn't see where this was going. I did not see where this was going. I knew it would result in something hateful. I was not expecting the largest mass lynching.
That's right.
Wow.
That is
like I said, entire new frontiers of hatefulness.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, it's
That's bad.
really
That's sad.
brutal. It is a really rough moment in U.S. history, in global history. 11 Italian men who obviously had nothing to do with the police chief's death, because we still haven't established whether or not he was murdered. They were lynched. And for people in the audience not familiar with what a lynching is, effectively it is when a mob beats and hangs a person, or in this case, 11 persons, which was rare. 3 or 4, not uncommon. 11, just the one time.
Just rare. Wow.
So, in response to this horrific event, the government of Italy just cut off diplomatic relations with the United States. They evacuated all of the embassies and legations. They all went home, and they refused to receive any missives from the United States from that point until sometime in the future when diplomatic relations were established, which is bold. Now, for people who don't know, this is, aside from war, this is the most you can do on the international stage as far as communicating your distrust and disinterest in working with another country. To cut off diplomatic relations means that if, say, an American business that was, importing things from Italy to the United States wanted to go to Italy and pick up its cargo, the Italian government could just actually, not even the Italian government, anyone in Italy could seize the resources of that trading company, and they would have no way to seek damages, because they have to do that through a international diplomatic scenario. So you could just have, and this is a time where there's loads of immigration, loads of movement, tons of Americans are doing business in Italy trying to take advantage of this. So it put a lot of people in precarious situations.
I was going to say that surely the situation left for the Italians left in the area, hugely marginalized and hugely persecuted. I'm guessing they weren't left in a better situation for those relations.
Well, they kind of will be, because what you don't know, because you shouldn't know this, is that 1892, the following year, was an election year. Right?
Nice.
1892 is a presidential election year. So what's also unique is that in 1892, for the first time ever in a presidential election year, 15% of the voters in the United States would be considered foreign born. Because of this massive immigration wave since the 1870s, it's been long enough that those citizens have naturalized. And this is a huge controversy that Italy has cut off diplomatic relationships because of this lynching. So we have a Congress and a president who are worried. And so they create Discoverer's Day, which should be in October of 1892, the 400th anniversary of Christopher Columbus's voyage to the New World.
Wow. And in an attempt to appease an Italian population.
Yes, because Columbus is from Genoa, and even though
We'll skip over the Spain bit. We'll just skip over
forget that bit. Even though Genoa was not, Italy didn't exist in 1492, so Genoa wasn't a part of Italy, and Italian was not the dominant, that's not Columbus's first language. It was Spanish. And French, I think. But
right. Makes sense.
But Genoa was a part of Italy now, so
it's close enough for the manipulation of voters.
Exactly.
We gotta get them in.
Discoverer's Day celebrates the idea that Christopher Columbus was both born not in the United States, born in Italy, but also by his deeds and his tenacity, his courage, he was himself an American. He was both American and foreign born, which is the first time that anyone ever uttered the phrase that the United States was, quote, a nation built by immigrants. End quote.
Wow.
No one had said that before.
Really?
Yep. Nobody thought that. That was not the dominant narrative.
Wow. So that is the birthplace of that phrase.
That's the birthplace of that
even though
idea.
He didn't actually step foot
Yeah.
on...
No, even though he never actually came to the United States.
Yeah.
Never stepped foot on Florida, even.
Look, America is a nation built on immigrants to Cuba.
Yeah.
So we all know that's the end of the phrase.
But that moment, from that point forward, that is where we in the United States get the idea that it's Columbus who discovers America. He's the first European to come to the U.S., and he is the one who starts this idea of the U.S. is built by immigrants at the expense of natives, which is only then that sort of disappears for a while as a narrative, and then that comes back because originally it was at the expense of the savage natives, and then that's the narrative that disappears. Well, now it's at the expense of the people who didn't want to have anything to do with this and should have been left the fuck alone. Natives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good optic change. Truly good change.
It's a big improvement. But that's where that first story comes from. And there's a bunch of other things. FDR makes it a bank holiday because it was the Great Depression, so we needed bank holidays. And then, as I said, in 1991, thanks to massive protests from indigenous peoples, we got, on the 500th anniversary of Columbus's voyage, 1992, we got the idea of Indigenous Peoples Day. And I was in the second grade, and I distinctly remember those protests because I was like, excuse me, Columbus did what? What? Oh, God.
Yeah, what now?
Why are we learning about this man? This seems terrible. I have a spelling test. So that's the dominant narrative. But there has emerged, particularly in the last 50 years, some alternatives that are really fascinating in their own ways. And I say that politely. So this is now, we're going to go into the second most common story, which I would argue is starting to emerge amongst a very specific demographic that I won't name. I'll let you guess when we get to it. What demographic? It's starting to emerge as the dominant narrative. And it is, hands down, I mean, I want to say it's my least favorite, but then I remember what the third one is.
Not remembering what the first one is?
No, because at least that one is rooted in some amount of fact.
I see.
Oh,
So
no.
we're talking about the narrative.
I hate the genocide.
We're including where it ends up.
Yes.
We're including the understanding of the whole kind of story and the whole arc and where we end up with as a point of understanding. I get you.
This one offends me professionally. The first one offends me as a person.
Yeah, as a series of historical events that we kind of can subscribe to that exactly. larger narrative around. I see. Right.
So, if you were to look at a map in your mind, bring the Mercator map up in your mind, Dan. Bring that inaccurate, shitty map. Let me just
go through the maps. Mercator, great. Yeah, here we go.
What European country, I will even specify island nation, is closest to anything resembling North America?
Surely Ireland.
You have the correct first letter, and you have the correct
Iceland.
There you go. Iceland.
Look at that. Of course, Iceland. Of course.
Edit that, Naomi, so that he says Iceland.
Iceland. Yeah,
no, I love the build-up.
Yeah. Look, I'm here to make the tense reveal of my lack of knowledge exciting, dynamic.
Oh my God, if you ask me any of these questions, my response would be,
That's great.
So, the argument put forward is that not Christopher Columbus, no, but before Christopher Columbus, there were some other seafaring folks from Iceland.
I see.
That we know as the Vikings, who traveled to the northeast of Northern America in the 11th century CE, so in the 1000s somewhere, and allegedly had regular contact with various First Nations people, and that they established a colony, and that colony only ended because either A, the Vikings couldn't hack it until they went home, or B, some number of the Vikings simply joined with the population of First Nations people, which would explain why some First Nations people are blonde.
Don't. I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that. I hate it so much.
I fucking hate it. And I know Naomi hates it because Naomi doesn't believe history should be told through the color of people's hair.
I do love hair color chat. Like, I do love a chat about hair color, but I don't want to base history around it.
No.
I'm with you, man. Come at it from a descriptivist perspective, not a prescriptivist perspective. You know, if you want to happen to describe how some, like, interesting things happen with hair color, go for it.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can use it as a primary source for your understanding of
I feel like it's giving Game of Thrones.
It's giving
You
Game
know
of
how in
Thrones.
Game of Thrones, each, like, tribe of people has a hair color?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like, the Targaryens, they all have blonde hair.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, it's like Ned Stark, 'cause they're all gingers and
Yeah.
So how long did we make it before we got to eugenics? Again, how long did we do this podcast on eugenics? Because immediately I'm like, you know what it's giving? It's giving Ubermensch. That's what it's giving.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
It's basically being like, let's have a race of people with the same hair.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Now, anyone, of course, who knows anything, I'm going to end the sentence, like the clause there. Anyone who knows anything knows that there are blonde people of all races. So this brings us to the maniac who is responsible for this narrative, Eben Horsford. Now, Eben Horsford, you've never heard of him before, but you think about him all the time. You don't even realize it, because in the late 19th century, mid-late 19th century, he came up with a shelf-stable and easy method for packaging and storing sodium bicarbonate and cream of tartar, which when combined forms baking powder. Yes, it's the father of baking powder. Not only is he the father of baking powder, he also may have invented condensed milk to help Arctic explorers, like, save on the weight of carrying milk and having it be more shelf-stable.
You see, I love condensed milk. I think, on balance, don't know if his inventions were a net good so far from this narrative he's created.
So, Eben Horsford, you must think, surely this man is a chemist of some stripe, right? Like, he's mixing sodium bicarbonate and cream of tartar. He's condensing milk.
What's the era? What's the era we're talking about?
We're talking about, so he's alive in like the early 1870s, I believe, is when these two inventions came together.
A lot of people doing science were enigmatic, weird rich people who had strange interests. I don't know. I think that's where my bet's going.
That is where your bet's going. He was a civil engineer.
Okay.
So he's not crazy outside the realm of, but the man specialized in designing sewers. That was his day job.
Okay.
Oh, God. And he's living in Massachusetts, mostly in Boston. And the city council of Boston knows this man well because he shows up to every city council meeting with notes. He's ready. Any letter you read, there's so many of them that mentions this guy, the sigh is audible from the page.
Wow.
I ran into Eben Horsford. Oh, fuck. What did he say this time?
Yeah.
He had a lifelong ambition to prove that New England was not settled by the Pilgrims in the 17th century, but rather it was settled by Leif Erikson, a.k.a. Eric the Red, legendary Viking champion of the 10th century, a man who died in like 987.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Take me on a journey. Take me on a journey.
Now, why? Why could he possibly, other than he's just racist and a eugenicist, what could have given him the idea?
Anti-Italian sentiment?
No. It's because, as I said, he was a civil engineer. He did a lot of sewer and waterway building, which means that he had to do a lot of surveys, right? Do a lot of surveys of land so that you can correctly position everything, which meant that he spent a lot of time in the Central Archives and Library in Boston. Don't worry, those people also hated his guts.
Good for them.
Looking at old maps, 17th century maps, so maps from the 1630s and 40s, from when Massachusetts was first settled by Europeans, and he noticed that a lot of the place names looked Scandinavian.
Okay.
That's it. That's why.
That's why. That's all it took.
Yep. He just looked at his map and he goes, oh, looks like it was a bunch of Scandies here because a bunch of the place names are Scandinavian.
And that's all
That's the kind of research I could get behind.
Yeah, this is some Naomi level research. This is some real...
Wow.
That's like
Quote search
searching
through the
direct
book.
quotes on Google Books that I used to do at uni.
Look, I feel like though there's a difference is that you were maybe doing that for uni, whereas evidently this man was trying to set up a narrative.
Yes.
This man
trying
was
to
just
do something
annoying.
with this.
Yes.
Yeah, terrible. Could you even just like written a letter to someone in one of those towns and been like, "Hey, your history,
But
your name."
he didn't just write one. He wrote hundreds to the Massachusetts Historical Society that said, these are Scandinavian settlements. Now, the fun fact is, Dan, and I want to apologize to Naomi, this is not in the notes. This is just a thing I know.
Oh wow.
The Pilgrims. All of the Pilgrims came from Nottingham. Nottingham
Fun.
was in the 8th and 9th, and actually a bit of the 10th century, part of the Norse kingdom of the north of England, which is why there are still places there today which have very Scandinavian sounding names, because it used to be where Scandinavian people lived.
Makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense to me. Yeah, yeah.
So that's why they would have named things. So all he had to do was just read the Mayflower Charter, and it would have explained everything.
Yeah. I mean, it is a less tantalizing story, isn't it? Why does something sound Scandinavian? Because they're from Nottingham.
Yeah.
You know, they're just from Nottingham. That's it. That's all you've got. Sometimes the truth isn't sexy.
They're just in the
Sorry,
Sherwood
Nottingham.
Forest.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like maybe that's an insult to Nottingham.
So nobody listened to him. Nobody gave a shit. So instead, he self-published a book in 1888 titled Discovery of America by Northmen, address at the unveiling of the statue of Leif Erikson, delivered in Faneuil Hall, October 29th, 1887. Rolls off the tongue.
It does. Yeah.
And he built a statue, put up a statue of Leif Erikson, and put a stone marker that marked what he believed was the boundary of a Viking settlement, which is still there today behind the Mount Auburn Hospital in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And it says this is where the first Europeans landed in North America, having come from Scandinavia.
Why has no one taken out that plaque?
Honestly, if you looked it up, it's this little triangle of land that no one goes on and is hella perilous to try to get to. So, here's the thing. He's not right, but he's not right. There is evidence in old Icelandic folklore of a place called Vinland, which was a territory to the west of Greenland, which is the, like, in the mythology of the Vikings, is where Eric the Red died. So there is a story of him going west past Greenland, and then he never came back. That's where he died. And in the 1960s, in Newfoundland, and that's a place in Canada, for people not familiar, Newfoundland is how it's spelled, but it's Newfoundland, someone discovered a archaeological site that we now call L'Anse aux Meadows that is indeed filled with Viking stuff. Bronze work, woodwork. There's some clear evidence of the outline of a building. And when you date the bronze, because that's the easier thing to date out of those materials, it squarely points to right around the year 1000.
Nice.
So, it is true. I'm gonna buy the archaeological story because it seems like good work that indeed some number of Vikings in air quotes, showed up in Newfoundland about 1,000 years ago. So people got real excited. They're like, "Oh shit, baking powder guy was right."
These feel like two very different things. I'm sitting there going, this makes sense. This is fine. That's different to what he said. Words mean things. He said
Words mean things.
Different things.
Yes.
And they were not the same as that.
Because finding evidence that Vikings were in Canada does not mean that Massachusetts was first settled by Europeans who were Vikings, right? Those are two different things.
Two different things. Yeah.
And so for from the 1960s until the 2000s, this was published in Scientific American and in National Geographic, and all these magazines are like, "Oh my God, we found these Viking remains." And there's the whole Vinland story. And then the baking powder guy was talking about this. Was America discovered by Vikings? What's really important is that the United States keeps making this about the United States.
Yeah. It's not Canada. It's not the people who are existing in...
Not Cuba. It's not Canada. It's the United States that matters.
It's also not, the indigenous people of North America. It is the federal state of the United States of America. Correct. That's what it's about.
So the last major archaeological dig that was done in the mid-2000s revealed exactly what this was. It was a boat repair shop.
Cool. Good for them.
It was a spot where people who were coming west, trying to maybe find some trade or steal some good stuff, could stop and winter, perhaps, fix up any damage that had been done to their boat, and then fuck off back to Iceland.
Keep pillaging, keep doing your work. Yeah, I mean, look, if I was going to pick a place to put a boat repair shop, Newfoundland. I mean, it's a bit cold for my liking, but for them and what they're used to.
And probably really necessary, because it gets really cold. There's a lot of moving ice in that area, a lot of rocky, I don't know, places where you could crash. I couldn't remember words for a second there, but that's fine. So the longest period of time anyone likely lived there was 6 months, and the site was likely visited at most 3 or 4 times over a period of 20 years. It was never permanently settled. There have not been any other confirmed settlements of Viking origin in North America other than this one. So not only was Eben Hersford a weirdo eugenicist, the only evidence that has supported the claim that Vikings, quote, discovered America first is one boat shop in Newfoundland. Every other claim is fake, despite, again, you know what, Dan, we said at the beginning of the section, guess which demographic really loves saying, well, did you know that the Vikings came to America first?
I'm a pitch that it is the European Americans. That's going to be my guess. Yeah.
It's white guys on the internet. They love saying it was the Vikings who got there first. Theory 1, 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. He didn't really land in the States, and the only reason we remember him is because of a terrible lynching. Theory 2, Vikings came some 492 years before Columbus, and they mixed in with the native indigenous people's population and maybe settled Massachusetts. That didn't happen. Now, Theory 3, in which I posit to you, Dan, what if the Europeans, what if Europe was the continent that was discovered?
Look, I mean, if we're talking about, like, you know, turning on its head, we're talking about decentering Europe, I'm all about it, but I'm not guessing that's what this is.
There are some theories that have become prevalent in certain circles that actually First Nations peoples from the varying American continents were the ones who actually went to Europe and not the other way around.
Okay.
The evidence for this is the prevalence of both Amerindian, which is one way that you can say native peoples of the Americas, and European genetics in the population of the Rapa Nui people of Easter Island.
Oh boy.
You doing
I can
okay?
think of some. I can just think of some different ways in which you end up in that genetic pool.
So,
They're not less fun.
Eric Thorsby is a scientist at the University of Oslo who he is one of the guys whose work on tissue typing is actually how we make organ transplants stick. He's a really important scientist, very influential since the 1970s. So if you know anybody who has had lung, heart, kidney, liver transplants, you can thank Eric Thorsby's work for helping you out. So after all his work on tissue typing, Eric Thorsby starts to explore genetics. As towards the latter half of the 20th century, we have a lot more technology that we can use to extract DNA and to parse the code, the human genome especially, that makes up that DNA. And he heads to Easter Island to start taking samples from the Rapa Nui people. And over the course of that research, he determines that there is significant South American and European common genetic ancestry, which dates back to the 1200s CE, specifically, the Common Era. So that would be 300 years before we have any written confirmed European contact with the people of Easter Island. So it's not that there was some sort of globalization and population mixing, or that there was some sort of slave trade, because that's how these things didn't happen. He is arguing that no. This shared European and South American ancestry predates all of that. And therefore, somehow peoples must have moved from the Americas, both towards Easter Island, but also towards Europe. And that would explain the shared ancestry. Now, he's not saying this all happened since 1200. Obviously, he's saying that the peoples of South America, like in the year 1200, who went to Easter Island, they have the same ancestry as
they already had that shared European sort of DNA, right?
Correct. Because Europeans could not have come over previously. It must be that these peoples left. Now,
Wild.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being cannot possibly be true, and 10 being this sounds like a verifiable fact, what are you going to give this this claim?
I feel like the sort of population shifts that would have needed to occur to like have that much, like change the DNA of the people who moved to Easter Island, surely it would have to be quite sizable. And surely we might have record of that kind of population movement, right? Through traditional archaeological historical methods. And do we? That's a question that I have. Do we have records of anything like that?
No.
Nah. It's not helping its case then.
It's not great. So your instinct is right. thank you for trying to think about this in like a logical fashion, because when I start to explain to you how fucked this logic is, you'll be like, oh, wow.
Great.
So the sample of people from the island is 27 people.
Right.
Population of the island is 8,000. So they are basing this off of a sample of 0.25% of the population. Right. None of which can they confirm that they are exclusively Rapa Nui, like that their fathers, you know, and so on and so forth, and mothers only lived on Easter Island.
Right.
That's also not how genetics, you can't, DNA does not give you years. That's not how that works, right? So like, it can give you generations.
Right.
So it can tell you like, and that's what they actually say, is that it is 19 generations back that they have this common connection. But they just go, oh, and then that would put it 800 years ago. And you go, oh, whoa.
It's not how that works.
Hang on a second. A generation, that is not a fixed number of years. Sometimes it's 15 years, sometimes it's 25 years, because it depends on like, how old were these people when they had children? How old did they live? You know, these are all factors that really impact that. So that's not how that works.
Just a question, Andrew.
Yes.
Is there any way to accurately use DNA to work out location? Or is it just too mixed up in history of people moving about all the time?
So it's not, you can't tie it to location because you can't tie it to coordinates. And since literally every country is a made up thing, it just doesn't work.
So far.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It's very unfortunate. It'd be cool if there was a way to tie DNA somehow to like GPS coordinates. Because then we'd be cooking, you know, with gas at that point in time. But unfortunately,
I think there's an anime in this. I think there's anime in that. We could set up an anime on that.
The GPS coordinates of your DNA, and one person has like a coordinate which doesn't exist anywhere on the planet. One person
has the coordinate.
It's like on the moon for the moon or something like that. Yeah, there you go. And then it turns out he's the guy who makes. He's descendant from the rabbits that make mochi.
Oh, great. I can hear the guitar riffs already.
This is
Sorry, Naomi, you asked a really reasonable question, and I...
Can we call Crunchyroll?
I like anime.
And now for something completely unrelated.
What's your favorite anime?
I actually think I used to love one called Vision of Escaflowne, but I don't
Oh
even
my god.
Yeah.
Vision of Escaflowne.
Is that quite a deep cut?
That's wow. First of all, that's a lot older than you are.
I don't know why I watched it.
That's a 90s anime.
I dressed as it for MCM. Anyway.
Actually, I know why you watched it.
Nice.
I know why you
Why?
watched it. The hair. The flowing hair of the main. I'm remembering the opening theme, and I think there was a lot of flowing hair. And if that matches with your passion for Spirit.
Spirit Horse, also a fan of that.
Horse.
I also wonder if we were able to tell where the character's from by the colour of their hair.
Oh, I see. Yeah, probably.
Well, I mean, the movement of Smurfs across the Atlantic does explain all the blue-haired Japanese characters we see. So, why did our team of scientists, our organ transplant, why did Eric Thorsby make his way? Why was he so obsessed with Easter Island and the Rapa Nui people? Well, there's a guy that when you get a chance, Dan, please look him up. Thor Heyerdahl. He was a famous Norwegian scientist and adventurer, which is a great combo. In many ways, very much the David Attenborough of his time and place. The man loved to make a documentary where he would like go to the jungle or the desert or whatever. And in the 1940s and 1950s, he attempted to prove that people could have sailed from South America, from Chile, to Easter Island using period accurate materials and designs They would just make a raft, basically. And he tried to prove this by doing it himself.
Okay.
So he made a raft out of using what kind of trees, like the wood that would have been available, and like the technology of basically the Inca people of that time period. And he almost died twice trying to do this.
Okay, fun.
And he eventually published a book called Easter Island, The Mystery Solved, where he talks about how he read a lost or hidden story in which Dutch explorers traveled to Easter Island in the 16th century, and they described it as an island populated by wealthy, powerful white people with red hair. And that a few years later, when Captain Cook got there, he described it as an island full of poor, brown Polynesian people.
Great.
And so Thor Heyerdahl was attempting to prove the theory of the Viracocha, the white Indians.
White Indians. So he's trying to solve the mismatch between those two accounts of Easter Island.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yes.
see.
And this is what Eric Thorsby grew up reading, was this story. He also was trying to prove the theory of the Viracocha. The Viracocha are described as very large white Indians with red beards and pale skins.
Okay.
What Thorsby and Heyerdahl are positing is that the origin of European humans is not Africa, as is true in facts, but rather that there is this other Homo sapien species that evolved on its own in South America, even though there were no hominids of any stripe in South America before 20,000 years ago.
Right.
But at some point in time, a separate branch of the evolutionary chain emerged, and these super smart, very large, red hair, ginger, they're all ginger for some reason. Again, the fucking hair color comes back.
Yeah.
Ginger, pale humans emerged in South America that they taught the brown people who came 20,000 years ago across the Bering Strait and down how to build monuments. And then they left, with some of them going to Africa and teaching apparently the Egyptians how to build monuments, even though the Egyptian pyramids are older than any of the pyramids you can find in South America. And some of them going to Europe, where they created the European people, where they settled down and mixed with Neanderthal and made Europeans. And some of them, a small group of them, just went the other way, and they became the Easter Island people, the Rapa Nui, who, for some reason, are all Polynesian now.
Yeah. They all, at some point between those two accounts of Easter Island, just changed.
They all
Isn't
changed.
it so funny, though? Like, even if at that period of time you don't have the information that we have now, right? Some of the information, some of the facts you shared, I'm sure some of them, a couple of them, we might have discovered those facts later on. But if you just start from a position of, like, kill your darlings, right? Like, what is my presumption that I'm working on here? Am I assuming that some special white people taught all the brown people how to do the marvelous things that exist in the cultures of brown people? Like, if you just start there, even if you don't know the details of, like, when the pyramids were formed in Egypt, or, like, you could just begin and go, well, this does seem very convenient to my narrative of and maybe just challenge yourself a little bit.
And yet, Dan, this man shares this theory of, basically what he's arguing is that Europeans are a different species of hominid from black and brown people. And he shares this belief with a certain U.S. president, Thomas Jefferson, who also believed that Africans, Asians, and native peoples of the Americas were three distinct species from what he called Homo Europeanus, which was his name for white people.
That's depressing.
Yes. The principal author of the Declaration of Independence. And so the third theory is that indeed Europeans did not come to the Americas, but rather that they left from the Americas to create Europe. And so to say that Europeans like discovered the American continent is to have the whole thing backwards. Indeed. So if we're summarizing, Dan, what are these three theories about the European discovery of the American continent seem to have in common?
Wow. The white supremacy. The centering of
number one.
White Europeans. The centering of Europeans. Yeah.
We love to tell the story that the peoples of Europe who settled / colonized, depending on who you ask, the North American continent especially, but the Americas in general, are some sort of titanic heroes, some sort of grand characters. Leif Erikson, Christopher Columbus, the red-bearded white Indian guys that are taller than other people. That hero narrative is baked into the American experiment, right? That is part and parcel as to what makes the U.S. tick. Because the reality of the situation, to accept the reality of the situation, you have to accept a couple things. One, on the positive note, that actually the Americas were settled by Europeans through cooperative action carried out by working class peoples who are themselves as individuals not distinct or special in any way, shape, or form, but only through their collective action were they able to conquer the risks and inherent dangers of settling in the United States. And on the negative side, one must accept that there were horrible decisions made every step of the way by those colonists, those colonizers, to the detriment of other human beings who have been, by and large, erased from mainstream historical narratives, despite the fact that their successors are very much still alive and still carrying that story. And at the end of the day, nobody fucking knows. Yeah, probably Columbus. Right. If we're to go with who was the first European to really come to the Americas in a way and to recognize it as a continent, that there was some sort of a continent there was some sort of giant landmass, there was something. Columbus is about as close as you can get. We can say that since he wasn't too sure if it was in India or the West or the East Indies or something, that maybe it's someone like Verrazano, who's one of the first people to map the eastern seaboard of North America, who's another Italian guy. But there are no heroes in reality in the story of the United States.
There are no heroes.
And that's just got to be okay, everyone, because there still aren't any heroes there now. And the only things that get done are done by everyday people working together.
Wow.
Yeah. So, Dan, what did you learn today?
Not to get too meta about it, but I'm struck by kind of zooming out the obsession of who got there first.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's interesting that you say that, like, who can really know? But I'm kind of struck by the idea of going a step further, which is, why do we even care? Like, we can see the effects. We can see the positive and the negative effects. We can, like, study this period of time and the effects of Europeans in North America very clearly. To obsess over the first is to reinforce the hero narrative, right? And,
yes.
And that makes sense if you need bioessentialism, right? If you need if you need exceptionalism, right?
You need heroes.
Of this, specifically the exceptionalism of this kind of great American experiment, that it's something really, really, really special and really important and super heroic, definitionally. Not important practically, not inspiring practically because of actions or deeds, but because of some unspoken source that came from how we're just quite important in some way. Whereas where you touched on the end, I mean, so I learned a lot about the different stories that people have tried to tell about why they're so important.
Yeah.
But I really loved the last point that I learned, which was to take that step back and go like, what are the stories that we're telling and why are we telling them? And I love those little points you made at the end about the importance of the people involved, be it the communities, the communities of workers and farmers and people who were explicitly probably trying to, who had their own goals. And also the communities of people who were negatively affected as well, which I feel like is a better focus of our energy and time.
Yeah. I mean, that would be the more realistic and, as you say, fruitful analysis of history. But as you say,
but we gain so much from these stories of these proposed heroes.
Yeah.
Right. We can still gain a lot about how we tell our stories. Yeah. It's really cool. That was a really great journey. Appreciate it, Andrew.
I appreciate you. Naomi, did you have any final thoughts? You learn anything you wanted to mention as well?
Just that people love a bank holiday. So I think that's why people really, really want Columbus Day to be a thing. They're like, let's just say Columbus did it, because we get Columbus Day and we get a bank holiday.
And that is why the state of Maryland did not push back at changing it to Indigenous Peoples Day, because everyone said, do I still get off work?
Yeah.
And we went, well, yeah. I'm like, I don't give a fuck what you call it.
Sick.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
we haven't had a Nana Coke around these parts in 150 years, but yeah, you can call it whatever you want.
Because day off work, I'm good. Yeah, truly. More bank holidays.
If you want to get on this podcast, please make sure that you subscribe to the show wherever you're listening to it. If you're listening to it right now, there's a subscribe button somewhere in the vicinity. Please click that. Or you can find us on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, where we post lots of fun short reels. It's another great way to support the show. We are at Seemingly Unrelated Pod on all of those platforms. So please give us a follow. Give us a subscribe. Thank you so much, gang. Dan, do you want people to find you? And if so, where should they go to do that?
I don't know. Maybe not. Where I would put a plug for social media, I will instead ask people to think complexly about their world. And be safe. That's all I got.
Oh, I thought you were going to plug something specific.
No,
just
we
think
just
complexly.
want to talk about shallow things like social media.
Yeah, I would, but also I love my peace.
Stunning.
I love my peace. I want to put
Leave
people
Dan
to
at
your social
peace.
medias.
Leave
me peace.
Don't find Dan. That's your advice. Don't find him.
Don't do it. Or if there's something in the description, then maybe do. Who knows?
We'll find out.
It's a little surprise just for you.
We'll find out. Well, that's all we have for this episode of Seemingly Unrelated. We are going to sail to the west until we find, let's say, some red-bearded white people. Why not? So come back in 2 weeks where we will have another exciting story of little things that actually have big, crazy impacts on our world. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Seemingly Unrelated is a Life's Little Murder Boards production. Created and hosted by Andrew Johnstone, audio production and editing services provided by Naomi Cohn. Our artwork is by Megan Zemet. The theme song is Irizumi by Pistol Jazz. To find out more about everyone involved and access the show notes for this episode, visit us at seeminglyunrelatedpod.com.
Yeah, I'm just the person who produces the whole show, but if you don't remember I'm here, that's absolutely fine.
Honestly, it's on brand for this episode because ignoring the existence of the person who does the real work is the theme of this episode. It was on purpose.
Boy,
Wink
Andrew's
to
doing
camera.
a big wink to camera right now.